Hello everybody, this is Shay here, and I'm going to be telling you about how I made a D.Va headset from Overwatch for my friend Jaden's cosplay that she wore at 2 PAX East. Basically, the things that you're gonna need for it are EVA foam, craft foam, hot glue, a headband, a foam head, scissors, an X-Acto knife, a Dremel tool, Mod Podge, and acrylic paint to paint it. Basically, the first thing that I do is I measure on my face where the main piece of the headphone would go. It's sort of like a diamond shape almost. I take the kind of diamond rectangular shape and I cut it out of craft foam, the thin kind, because we are going to be using that piece later on for a second detail layer. You're gonna need 2 of those. I mark on my headband where I want that to go, and then I trace those pieces onto EVA foam and cut them out. Right about here is where I trace the craft foam pieces again, and I start to mark the second layer shape that goes on, which is also a diamond kind of teardrop that tapers off at each end. So I trace that out. I just freehand it the best that I possibly can. And I also use this opportunity to take any foam scraps to cut off the little antenna pieces, and then I cut out the second layer of foam. I mark where all of the pieces are going to fit on top of each other with a pen. And here is where I fucked up. I was thinking that I was going to use that really thick foam to make the shape of her headband, which is kind of like, it's got a lot of angles and bumps in it, and I thought that I would be able to do that with a long piece of EVA foam, but it ends up being way too thick. Instead, I take a long piece of thin craft foam and I try to mimic the angle that it makes in that by making kind of little spikes that come off the ends. Not the ends, but like by making little spikes that come off sort of in the middle. I plug in my hot glue gun, I trim the antennas more and start cutting out the little tiny box details that her headphone have on the top. And now is where our little craft foam pieces are coming into play, the little tracers that I used. I lay them on top of the main piece of EVA foam and I make sure that everything matches up. And where the little green part peeks through, I wanted that to be 3-dimensional. I wanted that to be sunken in. So I sketched out like a half moon shape or a semicircle kind of thing, and I trimmed it out and I cut it a little bigger than I needed to on each piece so there would be a gap. And I did that for both sides. And then is when I started to hot glue the piece of craft foam onto the headband to mimic the angles that it had. I hold it down until I'm sure the glue is completely cooled, and I trim any edges to make sure they're totally even. Then I hot glue on the little rectangle detail pieces that go on the top of the headband. I glue on the 3-dimensional pieces onto the main headphone portion of itself. And right about halfway through that gluing process, I decided to make the little end pieces that sort of stick off in the front and the sides of the main headphone piece. It's sort of like a rectangle with a smaller rectangle coming off of it, so it has like 2 kind of things sticking out on each side of it. I measure how long I want that to be and I cut out the shape. And then I glue them on. This is where I take the opportunity to mark where I want the headphone pieces to go on the headband. So I have little marks on the side of each headphone piece so I can Dremel a sort of valley into it so I can glue it on and have it be more flush to the face. You're not going to be able to see this very well, but I am Dremeling the edges and making a valley in the headphone itself so it sits flush to the face. I am also taking the little diamond teardrop shapes that go on top of the main headphone piece, and I am Dremeling every single one of the edges to be tapered down. I also Dremeled the little antenna pieces, and then I work around my cat to hot glue the main headphone pieces onto the headband. And I make extra sure that everything is secure by basically dumping hot glue all over the entire thing. Then I mark where I want the teardrop shapes to go and I glue them on, the diamond shape. And I mess it up a few times, but I get it on. And I secure every edge that I possibly can. And I do the same thing for the other side. Then I cut out little teeny tiny rectangle pieces to go onto that shape for detail and glue them on. Take the antenna pieces that you dremeled and glue them on. I sort of used my scissors to cut into an angle with them and then glue them on so they kind of sit a little straighter. Then you seal everything with Mod Podge. I use 3 or 4 layers. This is just so everything stays together a little better. It holds its shape more. It makes it, also it primes it for painting so the paint doesn't seep into the foam. I paint everything black, or just about everything. The main headphone pieces and the headband itself are black. The kind of black that I'm using, I need 2 coats on it. And there's also a little black detail piece kind of on the little diamond shape itself. I also paint that. And now I'm trying to mix the perfect pink using pastel pink and neon pink, but it's not really working out that well for me. If you can, just use a darker neon pink. But this is what I had, so I just went with it. It needed a few coats to cover, so if you're doing this yourself, you might want to use white paint as a base instead of trying to layer it up as many times as I did. I also used that color on the little rectangle pieces on top of the headband itself, and I used black to clean up anything that got where it shouldn't have. Now I am making a gray paint to paint the diamond teardrop shape, wherever that it needs to be gray. And I add another layer to the pink because it didn't cover. And now I am painting the little rectangle pieces on top of the diamond teardrop shape yellow. And now I'm taking the green into that little crevice that you made and painting that and then cleaning it up with black to add more dimension to it. I'm dry brushing on black for each of the angles and using white to differentiate between any edges that I want to stand out more. If this tutorial helped you out in any way, shape, or form, please let me know down in the comments down below, and if you would like any more tutorials, please do let me know. Leave me suggestions. Anyways, remember that if you like me, if you like my face, if you like what I do, you can like, comment, and subscribe. Bye!
Just do it!